Open the doors of the sanctuary for the people to come in and rejoice. Come in imagery to behold the bright, mystical star, to hear echoes of voices, ethereal and far away. Take counsel here of legendary lore, the wisdom of poetry and myth. Welcome, everyone.
We gather as a habit of hope to give ourselves this pause, to slow down, that we might practice together this paying attention, to make space here for silence, that we might wake up even in the darkest night to a whole new light, to kindle this fire, this flame, these promises, this story. There is enough of this earth to share. There is room for everyone seeking shelter, enough love, enough shelter, enough life for us to keep risking joy in the journey. We are all part of this good news. Together, let us celebrate the light of Christmas together.
Christmas Eve is a time for candlelight. It's a time when one desires soft music and gentle magic and dear ones near.
An atmosphere of joy steals into life at Christmas time. There are celebrations and festivities. We greet strangers more easily and are more warmly open to all.
At Christmas, we decorate our homes and hearts with light and color and abundance. We are freer about being kind and generous, as we would like to be all the rest of the year, friendly and loving.
Families come together to enjoy one another. We hear from old friends, happy memories surface. There's a wistful pleasure in remembering persons and years now departed.
What makes Christmas so special? Why does it have this wonderful power? Perhaps because its gladness and delight make us more comfortable about being open and generous. At all levels of experience, it is time to give what is good: greetings, presents, love, celebration.
Christmas is the season of joy because it reminds us of the wonder that is the reality of life itself. The prospect that a baby, whether a royal infant or any newborn, has the potential to bring us all the saving power of love.
This season, with its glory and delights, is now upon us. May our spirits shine with its promise of peace and goodwill to all the earth. May love fill your life in this season of light and giving.
Different cultures and generations have different ways of expressing joy, but music has a perennial and universal power. Let's rise and begin tonight's celebration by sharing a wish for joy to the world. If we're going to do that song, we have to do the Christmas words.
Jeremiah was a prophet, lived in the olden days, telling all the people they were deep in trouble and they better change their ways. We gotta change our wicked ways. Sing joy to the world. All the
Tonight, the Jewish tradition also celebrates a story of joy and light in the darkness, and the courage and dedication of the ancestors whose faith is a legacy to us. Praise to that which creates and sustains the universe, which gives order and meaning to our lives, which summons us to kindle these lights of memory and dedication. Here's to you who hold hope when it's unreasonable, who keep the faith when nothing makes sense, and who rededicate yourself to show up for love day after day after day. When making it through even one more day is a wild miracle. Happy Hanukkah.
When Isaac Watts was a child in 17th century England, he complained that church music was dreary and boring. His father, a nonconformist minister, challenged the youngster to write hymns that he thought were better. Isaac grew up to be a liberal dissenting minister himself and a famous hymn writer. This year is the 300th anniversary of his writing the words for another joy to the world. Strangely, this celebratory song, now considered a classic Christmas carol, was not originally intended to be about the birth of Jesus, but rather about the joy of his return to earth at the time of the second coming. Our colleague Victoria Weinstein puts it this way: he is not coming back, you know. He is not coming back unless it is we who rise for him. We who lay healing hands on the reviled and rejected like he did on his behalf. We who rage for righteousness in his insistent voice. He will not be back to join us at the table, to share God's extravagant banquet, God's love feast. All are invited, come as you are. And so it is you and I who must feast for him, must say grace and break the bread and pass it, and serve everyone so tenderly, as though just this morning each one of us made the personal effort to make it back from heaven or from hell, but certainly from death, to be here together. Because if by some miracle, and why not a miracle, he did come back, descending again to Bethlehem, wouldn't he want to see us like this? Wouldn't it be a miracle to live for just one day, so that if he did by some amazing feat come riding into town, he could look around and say, "See, this is what I meant." And we could say, "It took us a long time, but we finally figured it out." Oh, let us live to make it so. You are the resurrection and the life. He is, and you are, and you, and you, and you. Each one of us is the baby in the manger, a witness for the world as it might yet be. And we know that any night a child is born is a holy night of peace and goodwill, of resurrection and redemption, of joy to the world. Let's try again.
calling all who cannot wait any longer for joy, for hope, and for some good news, even a little. The time has come, the waiting is over. Here in this time, we have an old story to tell, one that has been shared over and over for thousands of years, but still somehow it remains unheard, still radical and risky. Breaking through into these days of darkness and cold, division and fear, interrupting the perpetual stories of violence and loss and the feelings of powerlessness. Into the errands and errors of our everyday, Christmas arrives not only to comfort, but to awaken, to reassure, and also to stir us up as a new life, a life of peace and justice and courageous love, struggles to be born. Wondering if we will yet be the ones who make room in our lives and in our world for the refugee, the poor, the plain and messy sweetness of a newborn baby. If we will take the journey to Bethlehem, if we will be changed by the presence of a love that meets us where we are, in the fields wherever we lay, and calls us forth into a new journey, a braver and bolder life, believing that it is not too late for strong and gentle people to win, for compassion and truth to have the final say, for the bright light of hope to shine through even on the darkest night.
We come together as a congregation throughout the year to comfort and to challenge one another as we make our way in the world. Our lives ebb and flow, and we take turns needing support and having the resources to support one another. This evening, our offering will go to replenish the minister's discretionary fund, a fund that provides support on your behalf to members and friends of our congregation. Christmas Eve is the only time that there is a formal ask for this fund, although occasional gifts do appear throughout the year. As the name implies, the minister has the discretion to disperse money for members and friends who have a specific temporary financial need. This past year, more than $2,000 has been dispersed on your behalf to 18 of your fellow members and friends and others connected to our congregation. These disbursements have helped pay for things like food, home repairs, transportation, and utilities. In addition to providing for individual needs for our congregation, the fund has also been used this year to prepare for our warming center, purchasing toiletries and cold weather gear to give away to our guests when we open our doors as a warming center. Your generous contributions will be used to ease the burden of our fellow humans, whether that means a member's electric bill gets paid and avoids being shut off, a friend's necessary medication is purchased, or a guest at our warming center leaves the building rested with fresh socks and gloves and a sack lunch to get through the next day. This fund makes a real difference in people's lives. Please give generously. Your gift will help another person breathe more easily sometime this year. The offering will now be received gratefully.
Will you join me now in the words of dedication for our offering that you will see on the screen? On this holy night of peace and goodwill, we dedicate our gifts to the sustenance of those in need. From what we have shared, may the cold and hungry receive warmth and be fed. May the frightened be reassured and the wounded find wholeness. Let all who struggle understand that they are not alone. By our generosity, may community be nurtured so that all might be saved from selfishness of heart as much as from desperation and despair. May the money we have offered here be transformed into the healing alchemy of love. Needs and sorrows are never absent from the world, even on days like Christmas, meant to celebrate joy. Sometimes it is a matter of sheer faith and persistence to believe that we will be able to move past the helplessness, even when the bells of Christmas Day may almost seem to be mocking us. There might still be an assurance to be heard in them. Let's rise together and sing.
Into the wild and painful cold of the starless winter night came the refugees, slowly making their way to the border. The man, stooped from age or anxiety, hurried his small family through the wind. Bearded and dark, his skin rough and cracked from the cold, his frame looming large in spite of the slumped shoulders. He looked like a man who could take care of whatever came at them from the dark, unless, of course, there were too many of them. One man he could handle, two even, but a border patrol, they wouldn't have a chance. His eyes, black and alert, darted from side to side, then over his shoulder, then back again forward. Had they been seen? Had they been heard? Every rustle of the wind, every sigh from the child sent terror through his chest. Was this the way? Even the stars had been unkind, had hidden themselves in the ink of night so that the man could not read their way. Only the wind. Was it enough? Only the wind and his innate sense of direction. What kind of cruel judgment that would be to wander in circles throughout the night, or to safely make their way to the border only to find the authorities waiting for them. He glanced at the young woman, his bride, no more than a child herself. She nuzzled the newborn, kissing his neck. She looked up, caught his eye, and smiled. Oh, how the homelessness had taken its toll on her. Her eyes were red, her young face was lined, her lovely hair matted from inattention, her clothes stained from milk and baby, her hands chapped from the raw wind of winter. She'd hardly had time to recover from childbirth when word had come that they were hunted, and they fled with only a little bread and the remaining wine and a very small portion of cheese. Suddenly, the child, began to make small noises. The man drew his breath in sharply. The woman quietly put the child to breast. Fear, long dread-filled moments. Huddled, the family stood still in the long silence. At last, the man breathed deeply again, reassured they had not been heard. And into the night continued Mary, Joseph, and the babe.
Christmas 1974 by May Sarton. In the year of darkness, in the year of words, millions of words, accusing, excusing, breaking, demanding, lying, refusing, in the year of the desert, in the year of the bombs, when hatred pollutes the air, what we long for is silence. There have been so many deaths.
But no one funeral. No way to mark the place, set terror at rest. Say, finis. No time for mourning, no healing zone. In the year of the failure, the drying up of waters, we have been stricken one by one as though by plague. No one sleeps without dread. Each struggles to survive alone, longing, deeply afraid in the night. Even the whales are dying. Who punishes? Who forgives? What have we done?
Must we go to Bethlehem, make the hard journey again, dying of thirst as we are? Must we go to the place of hatred and war without end? Must it all be done again from the beginning after 2,000 years?
Yes. Sick at heart, plagued, lost as we are, let us make the hard journey. Who can be sure? But perhaps if we go there, it will happen again. It will happen to us. An infant will be born again out of blood and on filthy straw. How naked, how vulnerable, how desperately in need this breath between past and future, this infant hope.
Yes, let us make the journey. Perhaps it will happen again.
Sick at heart, plagued, lost as we are, surely those words resonate for many of us, as day after day we're confronted with yet another atrocity, a new outrage, the latest manifestation of evil. How do we escape the negative spiritual side effects of 24-hour cable news, Facebook, Twitter, the comments section of every news article? It's true, what we often long for and rarely get to experience is blessed silence. But those words of poet May Sarton were written in response to a different time, 1974, a year that many of us here remember. Not that long ago, perhaps. But oh, how much we and the world have changed since that simpler time. And yet maybe not so different, not so simple. 1974, a year of bombings in the Middle East and the UK, a nation traumatized by decades of war in Vietnam, the deadliest tornado outbreak on record, Alberta King, the mother of Martin Luther King Jr., shot and killed while playing the organ at church. And in Washington, the continuing saga of impeachment of a president, featuring indictments, convictions, fights over subpoenas, endless hearings, investigations, and finally a presidential resignation. Indeed, a year of darkness. A year of millions of words accusing, excusing, breaking, demanding, lying, refusing, and the bombs, hatred, so many deaths, no time for mourning or healing. We were deeply afraid in the night. And here we find ourselves again. More cynical now, perhaps. Certainly more connected to everything that's happening, for better or worse. More polarized, more reactive, more outraged, less hopeful? It's a good question. Why should we make that metaphorical journey back to Bethlehem? Why should we step away for a moment from all the obsessive distractions that mark our days, that too often inspire us only to despair, that make us again still, deeply afraid in the night? Why do we pause to wonder and even celebrate the ancient story of light, hope, appearing unexpectedly during another time of oppression, destruction, and seeming powerlessness against the mighty? Somehow we know the answer because we are here together tonight, Christmas Eve 2019, sharing the familiar ancient story, singing the carols of peace and joy and hope, symbolically bringing the light into a darkened world, passing it from one to another until for a precious moment, all is calm and all is bright. Together renewing our courage to help make manifest the spirit of love and justice so that all babies born might be born into a world free of cages and desperate flights in the night, and tyrants who know no compassion and despise justice. Because, yes, who knows? Every child born is potentially a new Messiah. Every child born is another precious addition to a broken yet beautiful human community, struggling together, determined to save our world.
A candle is a careless thing, it would seem. See how it is always stretching up and reaching out. Look how it gives its substance for the sake of light, to the flame that consumes it, without murmur or complaint. It doesn't care into what corner the flame flings its shining, high or low, near or far, cherished or neglected, a lonely heart or a child's delight. A candle that tries to conserve its substance is poor company on a dark night. Any candle that does not spend itself for light is a disappointment in the deepening shadows of evening. A candle is not really careless. It must give itself away. In the giving, in the spending, the spreading, the sending forth, it finds itself. In the Jewish menorah, the candle that lights all the other candles is called the shamash, the servant candle. You be the shamash. Now, as we prepare to share the flame of Christmas, let me remind you that it works best to hold the lit candle upright, tilt the unlit candle into the flame until it lights. And if you have taken a flameless candle for your little one, you might want to go ahead and start it now. We know that the light is not our own. We did not make it. It does not belong to us. Yet it grows as we share it. In spite of all our faults and follies, every one of us may be a giver of light, a bringer of hope, a source of shelter, compassion, and peace to the world. May the reverence of this cherished evening live in our hearts all the year long.
Silent night, holy night, shining star in the
we have a promise to keep, which was made long ago in the silvery light of a star at the manger of a child.
Since then, earth has resounded with the harsh cries of hate, and our hand has been raised against our neighbors.
We have a promise to keep, for that song of peace and goodwill from the midnight skies is faint and far away.
Yet still we seek our neighbor across the frowning walls of fear, for deep in our hearts abides the hunger for peace.
Once again, across the long years, sounds that sweet old song.
And from out our haunted sleep, we awake to listen and bow down in wonder and yearning.
How long, O messenger of peace, shall we keep you waiting outside the closed door where people trade their souls for power and gold?
Your dream, O messenger of peace, shines in our hearts today. The light from your star streams into our souls, and hope is born anew.
Day by day, the light shall grow, and year by year, the shadows shall fade away.
Voices of peace and goodwill, long stifled by the bitter cries of hate, sound again.
That midnight song of long ago shall fall upon the earth like the gentle mantle of snow, and the joy of Christmas rise once more in our hearts and bless us, every one.